I always imagined that my wedding day would be the happiest day of my life. The perfect blend of joy, nervousness, and that electric excitement that buzzes under your skin. And at first, it was. The sun was warm, the air crisp, and the small vineyard we rented for the ceremony looked like a dream out of a movie. I was 30 minutes away from walking down the aisle, dressed in ivory silk, surrounded by friends, flowers, and the sound of violins. Everyone kept telling me I looked radiant, glowing, that I had never looked more beautiful. But as I stood in that dressing room, smiling in the mirror, I had no idea that everything was about to fall apart. My maid of honor, Jessica, had just finished adjusting my veil when she got a call. She froze mid-sentence, her eyes widening as she listened. She whispered my name once, softly, like she was afraid to break the silence, and then she handed me her phone. "You need to hear this," she said, her voice trembling. I pressed the phone to my ear. On the other end, I heard a woman's voice, calm, collected, but deadly cold. She said, "I'm not here to ruin your wedding, but your father has been lying to you your entire life. I know, because I'm his other wife. I thought it was a prank, a cruel joke from someone who wanted attention." But before I could hang up, she said my father's full name, his date of birth, where he lived every other weekend, and then she dropped the final bomb. "He has 3 other children, and they're standing outside, right now, waiting to meet their sister." That's when the screaming started outside the bridal suite. Commotion, gasps, and then my mother burst in, white as a sheet, holding her phone and crying. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't breathe. And my father, me hero, the man who raised me, was nowhere to be found. That was the moment I realized. The man I thought I knew, the man who gave me away at the altar, had been living a double life. And he picked today, my wedding day, to let it all unravel. I hadn't even said, "I do," and already everything I believed about my family was shattered. What happened next changed the course of not just the wedding, but my entire life. Because when I confronted him, when I finally saw him face to face, I didn't just find out about his second family. I discovered a secret so dark, it made me question whether I had ever really known him at all. I left the bridal suite still in my gown, my veil fluttering behind me like some tragic symbol of everything I was about to lose. The guests had begun murmuring. Some were staring at their phones. Others stood in tight clusters, whispering. But all I could see was Himmy, father standing near the far edge of the courtyard in his black tux, sipping champagne, pretending like nothing had happened. Like the world hadn't just imploded. I walked up to him slowly, every step feeling heavier than the last, the words from the phone call still echoing in my head. "He has 3 other children, and they're standing outside, right now." My heart was pounding, not with love or joy, but with betrayal, rage, confusion. "Dad," I said, but it came out like a broken whisper. He turned to me with that familiar smile, that fatherly, practiced smile I'd seen my whole life. "Sweetheart," he said, reaching out to hug me. But I stepped back. I couldn't let him touch me. Not after what I'd just heard. "Is it true?" I asked. "Do you have another family?" He froze. His face didn't twitch. His jaw didn't clench. He just froze, as if waiting to calculate the right lie. Then, with the most unnatural calm I've ever heard, he said, "We'll talk after the ceremony. Let's not ruin your big day." I stared at him, stunned. My big day? He had detonated a bomb under it, and now he wanted me to walk down the aisle like nothing had happened? "No," I said, louder this time. "We're going to talk now." The guests nearby turned to look. My voice had cracked. My hands were shaking. I was suddenly aware of my mother, now standing behind me, her mascara running. She wasn't crying just because of the wedding. She knew something, too. "Tell me," I demanded. "Tell me who she is. Tell me who they are." And then, like it was just a business transaction, he nodded slowly and said, "Her name is Lisa. We met 22 years ago." I didn't mean for it to go this far. But things got complicated, and I didn't want to lose either of you. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear the veil off my head and throw it in his face, but I couldn't move. "You've been married to Mom this whole time," I said. So what is she, your mistress? No, he said softly. She's also my wife. It felt like the world had stopped spinning. You married her too? I whispered. In another state? He said. Technically, it's not legal, but we had a ceremony. Her family thinks we're married, and I've been supporting them for years. I stepped back. Everything around me blurred. I could hear my fiancé calling my name from the other end of the courtyard. Jessica running toward me. But none of it mattered. I looked around for these siblings he supposedly had, and then I saw them. 3 people, 2 women, and a man standing just outside the vineyard gate. They weren't coming in. They were watching, waiting. One of them was crying. The youngest, maybe 16. She looked just like me when I was her age. It was surreal, like looking in a time mirror. I turned back to my father. And you were just going to let me marry today without telling me any of this? He looked at me like a child who had broken a vase. I was trying to protect you, he said. From what? I shouted. The truth? He flinched. For the first time, I saw something close to regret in his eyes, and then my mother stepped forward. I've known, she said. For years. My knees buckled. Jessica caught me before I fell. What? I asked, my voice barely audible. You? Knew? He promised me it would end, that it was a mistake, that he'd stop seeing her, she said. And when he didn't, I stayed. For you. I couldn't believe it. My whole life, every holiday, every family photo, every memory felt like a lie, built on top of another lie. And now, it was all unraveling in public, in front of 150 wedding guests and a table of uneaten cake. My fiancé had finally reached me. We can still do this, he said gently. Let's go inside. Let's get married. But how could I say I do when I didn't even know who I was anymore, or what family I truly belonged to? I looked at him, this man I loved, and for a second I wondered, how many secrets does he have too? Because trust, once broken like this, doesn't repair with vows and rings. I turned back to my father, still waiting for more of the truth. And that's when the final crack appeared, because someone else stepped forward from the crowd, a man I didn't recognize. And he said, You're not the only daughter he's lied to. I'm Lisa's brother, and you don't know the half of it. The man who stepped forward was tall, older, maybe late 40s, with sharp eyes that darted toward my father like a blade ready to cut. My name's Aaron, he said, standing between the crowd and the chaos like a storm front. I'm Lisa's brother, and I've kept my mouth shut for over 10 years, but not today. The entire vineyard fell silent. Even the violins had stopped playing. Your father didn't just cheat, Aaron continued. He didn't just lie. He destroyed my sister's life. My father tried to interrupt, but Aaron raised a hand and cut him off with a glare. She was 19 when she met him. 19. He said he was divorced. Said he had no children. She believed him. She was a waitress working double shifts at a diner I owned. He swept her off her feet, promised her a better life. And then he got her pregnant. My stomach turned. The girl who looked like me. The youngest one. She wasn't just someone he supported. She was his child. My half-sister. He told her to keep it a secret, Aaron said. That he was going through a complex legal separation. His words, not mine. Said he'd marry her once things were finalized. That was 20 years ago. He never left his wife. He just made more promises. More lies. 3 kids later, and she was stuck in a rented apartment while he bounced between 2 homes like a king. My hands went cold. I turned to my father. Is that true? I asked. His face, once so confident, looked cracked. Not exactly, he said. She knew what it was. She stayed because she wanted to. Aaron's voice thundered over him. She stayed because she had 3 mouths to feed. And because every time she tried to leave, he reminded her she had no job, no savings, no one but him. Gasps rippled through the guests. Someone had started filming. I could see phones raised, lenses pointed like weapons, but all I could focus on was the woman on the phone, the one who had called me before I walked down the aisle. Lisa, his other wife. My chest burned. All the birthdays he missed because of business trips. All the weekends he was on call. They weren't just lies, they were stolen time. Time spent with a family I never knew existed. A family built on deception. I looked back at the girl at the gate, me half-sister. Her name was Emily. I didn't know how I knew that, but something in me just did. She looked at me with this blend of fear and longing, like she wanted to run, but also wanted me to say something. Anything. I took a step toward her. My wedding dress dragged across the gravel. The crowd murmured behind me, but I didn't care. I walked straight to her. "Emily?" I asked. Her eyes widened. She nodded slowly. "Yeah," she whispered. I took her hand. "I didn't know," I said. "I swear I didn't know." She bit her lip, and for a second, I saw it the sister I never had. The bond we might have had if he had just told the truth. "It's not your fault," she said. "We used to watch your piano recitals on YouTube. Mom always said you looked like her when she was younger." My throat tightened. "I didn't even know you existed." "We knew about you," she said. "He never let us talk to you. Said it would ruin everything." I turned back toward the vineyard. My guests, my fiancé, my father now standing alone, shrinking under the weight of everything he'd hidden. I walked back to him, slowly, dragging years of betrayal behind me. "Why?" I asked him. Just one word. He looked at me like a man who had finally lost everything. "Because I was selfish," he said. "I thought I could have both lives. 2 homes, 2 sets of kids, 2 versions of myself. And, for a while, it worked. But then you grew up. And so did they. And I couldn't keep them apart anymore." He paused. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought I could control it." I laughed bitterly. "You thought you could control families?" "No," he said. "I thought I could protect you from the truth." "You didn't protect me," I said. "You broke me." And I walked away. I didn't marry that day. The wedding was called off. The guests left in confusion and whispers. Some looked at me with pity. Some looked at me like I was broken. But I wasn't. I was awakening. In the weeks that followed, my father tried to call. To explain. I didn't pick up. Instead, I met Emily. And the others. I sat with Lisa. I heard her story. I learned about the holidays he missed with them too. The nights she cried herself to sleep. The way she kept every letter he ever wrote like a promise she hoped would someday come true. She never married anyone else. Neither did my mom. They both built their lives around a man who couldn't commit to just one truth. A man who built 2 kingdoms out of sand. Today, I no longer call him Dad. He's just a man who chose lies over love. But I gained something else: 3 siblings who feel like missing pieces I never knew were gone. We're still healing. We probably always will be. But for the first time in my life, I'm not pretending anymore. And the man who destroyed my wedding day, he taught me something he never meant to. That blood doesn't make you family. Truth does.